All right, modern client and development tools. So this is more user interface kind of stuff. So updates to page styling. So as I said, what you see, and I'm just going to go back into Business Central here briefly. As I said, you're going to see some, I think, are subtle changes to fonts, to screen placement. What I see is it's a little easier to view information with these slight changes. You did have the ability, to zoom your browser in and out with previous versions, which is fine. What I found is the proportion, the font proportion between the zoom in and out versus what I was seeing. I always thought the font was a little big. So what you saw is this is going to decrease a little bit. If it's too small for you, just know that you can use that zoom feature to make it larger. The other thing you're going to notice really in the user interface, the one thing that I noticed was the menu. So up here, oh, it's actually on the call out pages, so that's not going to show up. The menu has been adjusted a little bit. So again, page styling, menu styling, you're going to notice some subtle changes there. Changes to the action bar in dialog boxes. That's another subtle change. So when a dialog box comes up and you've got a menu bar, you can either now present that as menu items in a linear format like you have today, or you can actually call that out as a drop-down menu. So if you don't want to have so much busyness on your screen, using the drop-down menu will, that's the enhancement that's been made. Improved accessibility for low vision users. So Microsoft has been very conscious of this from the very beginning. So there actually are subtle changes in the user interface to allow more accommodation again for low vision users. Pages with fact boxes are more responsive. Wow, I can't tell you enough on this one. So just in my limited working with version 17 here, I've noticed great enhancements of that. So even though I'm in a demo database, the amount of time and the speed at which fact boxes have been loading is noticeably different. And I would just say page loading in general has been improved. And again, this is even on a limited data set. So I would assume with a larger data set, you're even going to see more improvement. Fact boxes are very responsive. They just snap open. The values are right there. I know reading a little bit into this, Microsoft has changed sort of on a back end perspective how these fact boxes are loading. So what you're going to see is instead of having to load all of the fact boxes with data and then present the data, they're presenting the data as the other fact boxes are loading. So they've just changed the order of it. But what's giving you the advantage here is that the screens are just much more responsive than what we had before. Report request pages can open up multiple previews. So I didn't quite understand what this was until I ran it. I love this feature too. So if we go to the reports, and I'm just going to run my AP8 or my AR agent quick. All right. So I preview my report. All right. So those of you that have done this, when I close this out, I'm back to my main role center. Not anymore. We finally leave the dialog box open. So, you run your aging once and you messed it up, you want to rerun it again. I don't have to navigate through the system anymore to rerun the report. So I think this is a great enhancement. I suppose people will complain because they have to click the X now, but in times where you run the report once and you made a parameter mistake or something like that, I want to quickly rerun it. I don't have to navigate again to get to it. So that's awesome. Updated navigation experience. Oh yeah. What you're going to see in the navigation experience, and I don't have a specific example here, but what you're going to see is some subtle changes in terms of terminology and some placement of some things. So what you're going to see is a much more consistent menu system within Business Central. And I apologize, I don't have an exact example for you, but just know that there's some enhancements around that, particularly around when you've got multiple windows open. So if I'm navigating to a transaction page and then I open up a sub page before that, maybe I'm looking at inventory availability by period or something. That additional window that opens, you're going to have some additional functionality, but more consistency around the navigation experience. Role centers open faster, another improvement, and I would testify to this one. Just the navigation to the role center, much more responsive in terms of how it loads. What you're going to notice is that it presents the data and then it calculates the fields behind there. I don't know if you caught that, but when I navigate, these cues are loading up with 0. So instead of the page being blank, it's loading the page and then it's populating the data. So, but it loads faster, calculates a little faster. Basic authentication settings are deprecated for contact sync and Outlook. So again, that's related to security. So the security settings in dealing with Business Central and connecting that to Outlook have been improved. Access multiple production and sandbox environments across mobile apps. This is really cool. If you're using the mobile app, which I really encourage you to check out, it's free to download. You can deploy it on a Windows device, Android device, or an Apple device, phones or tablets. Same user ID and password you use to access the system currently in the browser, same user ID password. You can then process transactions in Business Central. What you have to do with the app as it was is you log into one environment, and it was really hard to switch to the Sandbox environments to do testing and that sort of stuff. You could do it, but it was really cumbersome. So having the ability to switch environments is a big deal on the apps. But if you haven't checked out the apps, check it out. Page Inspector supports temporary tables. I'll give you this one for free. If you've never used the Page Inspector, I encourage you to check it out. So if I open up a record here and I go to help, I go to help and support. Down here at the bottom, there's this inspect pages and data setting. What this allows me to do is to look at the underlying data that's in this table. So this just happens to pull the customer, the customer table, and I can see all the fields related to the record I'm on. We also have this view table option. If you haven't seen this, this actually allows me to view the entire table of data. So this is all of my customers, and it's all of the columns in the table. So if you're looking for a specific field or trying to find something, just know that this feature is there. This one isn't new. This is in the current version. But what we do have is this, we have this feature now in temporary tables. So there are specific areas of functionality that doesn't load a table directly, it loads a temporary table behind the scenes. So they've extended this functionality to be throughout the system. But just know, if you haven't used that view table feature before, it's in the current version. It's really helpful if you're writing reports and that sort of thing, or if you're using Edit in Excel. So oftentimes Edit in Excel, you've got actual access to more fields than what's on the page. So using that view table would allow you to see the data elements within there. Just can be a little easier for reporting again and troubleshooting. All right, let's go to the next one here. Modern development tools. So code, documentation, comments. So if you are a developer, if you're using Visual Studio to do and build extensions into Business Central, just know there's additional comments. Code regional compiler. So this is about that region and country support availability that we have. So we've got compilers that are just specific to those regions and to those localities. Delete extension data, that's a big one. That's actually deployed already. So if you are deploying extensions and actually want to reset your extension, prior versions you could deprecate data, but you couldn't really clean it up. So now you've got the ability to delete data. So that's a nice one. Suppress AL warnings. So this is a development tool just to, as you're doing, it's around the debugger, I believe. So you can suppress warnings and just get error messages. And then you can perform some regression and application benchmarking. There's some tools that are included with the AI environment.